What's up, y'all? It's Monday. I hope everybody had a fantastic weekend. First and foremost, I want to thank everybody who clicked on this video to give it a watch. I appreciate your support. So let's go ahead and get down, and I want to talk about a few updates as it pertains to the Nolan Wells case because it's quite interesting. And so now we're hearing that Nolan actually made it off of Horn Island and actually went to a party and was celebrating with his so-called friends. And an argument ensued, and there are people that are coming out that was a part of that celebration telling the true story. Now, before we get to people talking about this, right, and really unpacking what was said by people that went to the party on July 4th, I want you guys to take a little bit of a listen to Nolan's so-called best friend, Jayvon Williams, who said that the incident that occurred with Nolan Wells being deleted probably didn't have anything to do with race. Check out this.
I'm curious if the police have, I know they said they're still investigating. Did any investigators ever speak to you about what you saw that day?
No, sir.
Really? Okay.
Cops have not talked to you yet.
No, sir.
That's odd.
I don't see why the cops would have to talk to me. I mean, obviously, I had said my plea, because whenever I had talked to the people at Sunheard, it was whenever, the body was discovered and the autopsy people and all those people were there.
Well, I'll tell you why I'm surprised. Because you knew Nolan well, and you knew that he was friends with these guys who were the last ones to be around him before his body was found. And I would think they would at least want to know, hey, just the things we're asking.
Right.
Did you ever hear of any of this stuff? It's odd to me.
Just to gather information.
Yeah, that the cops wouldn't have contacted you. Yeah.
And that's fine. I'm completely fine with that. Like I said, I have nothing to hide. That's my boy, and I want him to find justice. This whole case thing, whatever, this whole situation, and none of this adds up to me. So it's really hard, for people to just keep on saying things when none of it adds up, honestly.
So one of the things that I'm sure, Jayvon, you've seen has been a big part of this story, people making the point that, at least in the photos that we initially saw, that Nolan was the only African-American kid who was out there, at least on that boat. Do you think, having been there on the island with this large group of people, that race plays a factor in whatever happened here?
Again, I don't want to answer that question. I wouldn't say I wouldn't want to answer that question. I mean, obviously we go to Ocean Springs, we're going to have white friends. So that's, I guess it's pretty normal down here, but.
Yeah, and I hear you. If that's, I guess you're saying that it's normal, it's not out of place to be a black teen in that area and that you have white friends, right? That's not uncommon is what you're saying.
I'm sure every black person has white friends somewhere, So I wouldn't say that it's a whole race thing, but.
All right, so my first question is, instead of going to the police, why are you talking to TMZ? Secondly, I didn't like how he referred to his so-called best friend, his boy, as the body that was found. I thought that was a bit insensitive, right? And then he didn't want to answer the question if he felt that this had anything to do with race. I mean, if you're scared, say you're scared. Call it for what it is. That's your home, boy. Tell it like it TI is, as we say here in North Carolina. So I don't understand why he's stumbling and fumbling and going through the woods trying to avoid that question. Now, me personally, I would have instructed my son not to do an interview with TMZ because it just doesn't look good right now. You haven't had a conversation with police. That's your boy. What are you looking for? Airtime? You're looking for everybody to see your face. And I don't know, y'all. I wonder if he was compromised before he did this interview with TMZ. And when I mention the word compromise, I'm alluding to the fact, did somebody put him up to this task to go on TMZ to downplay the race factor here? I do understand that he said he does want justice for Nolan. But I think that going forward, when the years pass by, he will look back and see that he didn't handle this correctly. You know what I'm saying? I'm just keeping it real. I'm not trying to bash the young man. I understand he's a youngin'. He has some maturity issues going on there because we all had those at that particular age. But at the end of the day, where's his parents to step in and say, hey, you shouldn't do this interview with TMZ? But anyway, what I want to do right here is leave you all with a couple of clips. The first clip is going to be a young lady talking about this situation, and the conclusion that everything comes to is the fact that Nolan did make it off of Horn Island, but it appears that he was deleted somewhere else and brought back to Horn Island and dumped in the wee hours of the morning. And then the second clip is going to be from a judge that used to be a judge in Mississippi by the name of Carlos Moore. And he's going to give his opinion on what should be taking place as it pertains to interviews, people being charged, affidavits being signed, and things of that nature. So I'm going to leave you all with this. I want to thank you all for tuning in to today's video. I appreciate the love and again, the support. I want you guys to have a beautiful day. Be fantastic. Peace.
Thank God the friends are speaking up. If you saw my video before this, a lot of y'all was asking if it was true, if it was real, and asking other questions, and she kind of answered some of them in these Facebook comments. So she said his mother knew. I told her, yes, Andrew was trying to keep us quiet and trying to put fear into us because he's bigger than all of us. But I told no, mom, and that's why the private autopsy was made. But yes, it was a big fight at Evan's house at the pool the same night. But yes, Wyatt and Andrew and Evan was jumping him. After Evan's mom threatened to call the cops on everybody to leave her house, everybody left, but no didn't. He wanted his phone. And then she said, yes, my brother going to get justice. The truth is out. They took him to the island that Monday morning around 4 a.m. They found him, I think, 8 or 9. I can show you the picture as well. And they were asking why didn't she tell the police, and she said, obviously I did. That's how they got his phone, because I called and his phone and keys was on top of the Xbox. That's why they requested him to have a private autopsy, because once they came to the house, Evan and Warren had deleted everything, including the videos No posted that night, and I showed them the pic of them at the pool party that night. I don't know what she was responding to, but she said, Jay saying that because he's friends with them. I mean, we all was until this. I don't know why Jay's still communicating with them anyway, but he always been like that. But nah, this is messed up because No still would be here if he didn't go to that pool party. He went around people that was real high and the parents allowed it. But yeah, No did make it back to land. No did make it back to land. I don't think anybody would go public and make allegations like this if it weren't true, knowing that they could get into some type of trouble. So I'm going to believe it until I see otherwise.
Are you guys hearing these latest updates coming out about Nolan Wells? So allegedly, Nolan did leave the island and he went back to Wyatt's house for a pool party. And during that pool party, there was an altercation between Wyatt, Nolan, Evan, and somebody else. And apparently they beat Nolan to with some sort of bar or pole. There are people that are putting out witness statements stating that they were there and they saw Nolan spitting up and that these boys on Nolan. They are saying that Evan's mother knew about the whole thing. And allegedly, they took Nolan's body back to the water. They're saying that this is the reason why it pinged on land at that house before they found that phone. This is why that boy told his daddy that Nolan was like a brother to me. Was like a brother to me when he showed up to get his car. It's because they already knew he was gone. Is this the reason why they needed dental records? Because he was unrecognizable? This case is starting to bust wide open. And we all knew that something else happened to Nolan. Now the question is, which of the parents helped those kids?
Let's get started. So what do we know? We know after watching the parents' interview and reviewing tons of footage from social media, recounting interviews and statements of alleged witnesses that were on Horn Island, we know that Nolan Wells went to spend the night on July the 3rd with his so-called friends. And he went with those so-called friends to Horn Island on a boat on July the 4th. We know that out of the 4 people on that boat, 1 did not return home. That one person was Nolan Wells. The other 3 returned home as normal and said nothing to any member of law enforcement or to the Coast Guard until at least 11 p.m. at night on July the 4th. We know that at least one of the so-called friends was found with the phone of Nolan Wells. And we know this based on the testimony of the parents, specifically the mother, who tracked the phone and was led to the home of one of the young men where she retrieved the phone. We also know that based on the mother's testimony that there were no Snapchats from the day, which was very odd for her son. We also know that text messages were deleted. We know that when she was tracking the phone, Life 360 said the phone was one place and Snapchat said it was another place. We know that the boy that had the phone did not voluntarily turn it over or call first. He had to be found through their own investigation. We know that based on witnesses' account, the so-called friends were seen on July the 5th, that Sunday, having breakfast together like nothing had happened. They were not out there searching for their so-called friend. We know that the so-called friends deleted their social media, deactivated their accounts, and scrubbed it clean if the allegations are correct. We know that the young man that had the car at his house did not willingly turn over the keys. At first he said that he did not have the keys, he didn't know where they were. Then he, after being pressed by the father, he finally turned over the keys. This is all very suspicious activity. We know that based on an audio recording and some video that Nolan Wells can be heard saying, "Give me my freaking keys," give me my freaking phone. And there's been 2 different versions. Some say he said, "Give me my freaking phone," or some say he said, "Give me my ML phone." Regardless, he was asking or demanding his phone. Someone had his phone who did not have permission to have his phone. So the first thing I see, the simplest thing I see, is who had his phone and why, and was that theft of the phone? Sometimes we look at the largest case, we try to get to but the person that took his phone committed a crime right there. There are witnesses to who took that phone. If an affidavit is signed, an arrest warrant could be signed by a judge in Mississippi to go after that person that had that phone unlawfully. We know, based on his own words, Nolan Wells' words while he was alive, he did not give whoever had that phone permission to have that phone. So was that theft? I think if an affidavit is signed, if it was presented to me when I was a judge, I would have signed an arrest warrant for the person for theft of that phone, based on what I've heard. It'd have to be an affidavit format, but if it was presented to me in affidavit format from law enforcement, I would sign the arrest warrant for, at least at this point, theft of the man's phone. We know who had it. We know who didn't report it to the family. The family had to go find it, and we know that Nolan Wells said give it back to him, and evidently it was not given back to him. Why was that? All of the other things I've stated, you piece it together. Is there enough right now for arrest warrants for murder? That is a good question. I do know at this point there should have been search warrants signed by a judge. Evidence should have been presented to a judge by now. We are nearly 7 days after July the 4th, when he was first reported missing. There should have been evidence submitted by Jackson County law enforcement agents, the Sheriff's Department specifically, presented to a judge so that search warrants could be signed by the judge, and there needs to be, or should have been, someone questioning the young men, the three so-called friends, and others, and the social media accounts need to be searched by now, or at least a search warrant should have been issued for the appropriate entities to give the law enforcement access to the social media information. That should have been done by now. I'm not telling you what I imagine. I'm telling you what the process usually is when you're trying to do a thorough investigation. And based on what's revealed from a thorough investigation, I do believe once the evidence is secured, it's going to lead, and it should lead, to the arrest of one or more individuals for the of Nolan Wells. All of the actions are very suspicious, and right now they lead one to believe that one or more persons could have been involved with the death of Nolan Wells. Right now we have a lot of unsworn testimony, but once that is put into affidavit format and there is corroborating evidence through social media, computers, or otherwise, I believe that at that point there will be enough evidence for a judge to sign an arrest warrant. I think critical evidence that's missing right now are the results of the autopsy, the state's autopsy and the independent autopsy. That's going to be critical information. And that alone, or that in connection with what's already known, may be enough to lead to an arrest or arrest. We do know at this point, low-hanging fruit. There should be an investigation about the underage drinking, who provided the alcohol. Those individuals could be immediately arrested based on if there was any sworn testimony presented to a judge. I believe a judge could immediately sign an arrest warrant for those who provided the alcohol to underage individuals. There's a lot of people and a lot of potential crimes, some misdemeanors and felonies, that people could be held accountable for. Was there any boating while intoxicated? Who was the captain of the boat? And what did he allow on his boat? If there were any illegal drugs possessed by anyone, drugs are still illegal in Mississippi, at least they were when I was on the bench. Drug possession, drug use, selling of drugs, dealing drugs, trafficking drugs. We've heard testimony, or allegations at least. I don't think anything's been put in affidavit format yet, about rampant drug use among certain individuals. So there are a lot of things that's been alleged. Once put into the correct format, affidavit-wise, it could lead to arrests for several things, including misdemeanors and maybe even felonies.